Thank you for joining me on this adventure. Your presence means the world to me. Hello, fellow enthusiasts. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of visual design elements and principles. Visual design elements and principles describe fundamental ideas about the practice of visual design. As we transition, let's shed light on elements of the design of the art and its relevance to our ongoing exploration. Design elements are the basic units of any visual design which form its structure and convey visual messages. Painter and design theorist Maitland East, grade 1902-1978, who attempted to gestate the fundamental principles of aesthetic order in visual design, in his book The Art of Color and Design 1941, defined the elements of design as line, direction, shape, size, texture, value, and color, concluding that these elements are the materials from which all designs are built. Let's now zoom in on color and uncover the hidden gems that lie within. Color is the result of light reflecting back from an object to our eyes. The color that our eyes perceive is determined by the pigment of the object itself. Color theory and the color wheel are often referred to when studying color combinations in visual design. Color is often deemed to be an important element of design as it is a universal language which presents the countless possibilities of visual communication. Hue, saturation, and brightness are the three characteristics that describe color, who can simply be referred to as color as in red, yellow, or green. Saturation gives a color brightness or dullness, which impacts the vibrance of the color. Values, tints, and shades of colors are created by adding black to a color for a shade and white for a tint. Creating a tint or shade of color reduces the saturation. Now, we shift our focus to color theory in visual design, a topic that deserves our attention. Color theory studies color mixing and color combinations. It is one of the first things that marked a progressive design approach. In visual design, designers refer to color theory as a body of practical guidance to achieving certain visual impacts with specific color combinations. Theoretical color knowledge is implemented in designs in order to achieve a successful color design. Color harmony. Color harmony, often referred to as a measure of aesthetics, studies which color combinations are harmonious and pleasing to the eye, and which color combinations are not. Color harmony is a main concern for designers given that colors always exist in the presence of other colors in form or space. When a designer harmonizes colors, the relationships among a set of colors are enhanced to increase the way they complement one another. Colors are harmonized to achieve a balanced, unified, and aesthetically pleasing effect for the viewer. Color harmony is achieved in a variety of ways, some of which consist of combining a set of colors that share the same hue, or a set of colors that share the same values for two of the three color characteristics: hue, saturation, brightness. Color harmony can also be achieved by simply combining colors that are considered compatible to one another as represented in the color wheel. Color contrasts. Color contrasts are studied with a pair of colors, as opposed to color harmony, which studies a set of colors. In color contrasting, two colors with perceivable differences in aspects such as luminance or saturation are placed side by side to create contrast. Johannes Itten presented 7 kinds of color contrasts: contrast of light and dark, contrast of hue, contrast of temperature, contrast of saturation, simultaneous contrast, contrast of sizes, and contrast of complementary. These 7 kinds of color contrasts have inspired past works involving color schemes in design. Color schemes. Color schemes are defined as the set of colors chosen for a design. They are often made up of 2 or more colors that look appealing beside one another, and that create an aesthetic feeling when used together. Color schemes depend on color harmony as they point to which colors look pleasing beside one another. A satisfactory design product is often accompanied by a successful color scheme. Over time, color design tools with the function of generating color schemes were developed to facilitate color harmonizing for designers. As we enter this new chapter, let's navigate the complexities of use of color in visual design and unravel its multifaceted nature. Color is used to create harmony, balance, and visual comfort in a design. Color is used to evoke the desired mood and emotion upon the viewer. Color is used to create a theme in the design. Color holds meaning and can be symbolic. In certain cultures, different colors can have different meanings. Color is used to put emphasis on desired elements and create visual hierarchy in a piece of art. Color can create identity for a certain brand or design product. Color allows viewers to have different interpretations of visual designs. The same color can evoke different emotions or have various meanings to different individuals and cultures. Color strategies are used for organization and consistency in a design product. In the architectural design of a retail environment, colors affect decision-making, which motivates consumers to buy particular products. Prepare yourself for an in-depth analysis of line in this section. The line is an element of art defined by a point moving in space. Lines can be vertical, horizontal, diagonal, or curved. They can be any width or texture and can be continuous, implied, or broken. On top of that, there are different types of lines aside from the ones previously mentioned. For example, you could have a line that is horizontal and zigzagged or a line that is vertical and zigzagged. Different lines create different moods. It all depends on what mood you are using the line to create. In this section, we'll be shedding light on point and its impact on our understanding of the subject. A point is basically the beginning of something in nothing. It forces the mind to think upon its position and gives something to build upon in both imagination and space. Some abstract points in a group can provoke human imagination to link it with familiar shapes or forms. In the upcoming portion, we'll be dissecting shape to gain a comprehensive understanding of its implications. A shape is defined as a two-dimensional area that stands out from the space next to or around it due to a defined or implied boundary, or because of differences of value, color, or texture. Shapes are recognizable objects and forms and are usually composed of other elements of design. For example, a square that is drawn on a piece of paper is considered a shape. It is created with a series of lines which serve as a boundary that shapes the square and separates it from the space around it that is not part of the square. Now, let's shift our perspective and explore types of shapes from a different angle. Geometric shapes or mechanical shapes are shapes that can be drawn using a ruler or compass, such as squares, circles, triangles, ellipses, parallelograms, stars, and so on. Mechanical shapes, whether simple or complex, produce a feeling of control and order. Organic shapes are irregular shapes that are often complex and resemble shapes that are found in nature. Organic shapes can be drawn by hand, which is why they are sometimes subjective and only exist in the imagination of the artist. Curvilinear shapes are composed of curved lines and smooth edges. They give off a more natural feeling to the shape. In contrast, rectilinear shapes are composed of sharp edges and right angles, and give off a sense of order in the composition. They look more human-made, structured, and artificial. Artists can choose to create a composition that revolves mainly around one of these styles of shape, or they can choose to combine both. As we progress, let's shine a spotlight on texture and examine its intricate interplay within our topic. Texture refers to the physical and visual qualities of a surface. In the upcoming section, we'll be dissecting uses of texture in design and exploring its intricate connections to our topic. Texture can be used to attract or repel interest to an element, depending on how pleasant the texture is perceived to be. Texture can also be used to add complex detail into the composition of a design. In theatrical design, the surface qualities of a costume sculpt the look and feel of a character, which influences the way the audience reacts to the character. Types of texture. Tactile texture, also known as actual texture, refers to the physical three-dimensional texture of an object. Tactile texture can be perceived by the sense of touch. A person can feel the tactile texture of a sculpture by running their hand over its surface and feeling its ridges and dents. Painters use impasto to build peaks and create texture in their painting. Texture can be created through collage. This is when artists assemble three-dimensional objects and apply them onto a two-dimensional surface, like a piece of paper or canvas, to create one final composition. Paper coll is another collaging technique in which artists glue paper to a surface to create different textures on its surface. Assemblage is a technique that consists of assembling various three-dimensional objects into a sculpture, which can also reveal textures to the viewer. Visual texture, also referred to as implied texture, is not detectable by our sense of touch, but by our sense of sight. Visual texture is the illusion of a real texture on a two-dimensional surface. Any texture perceived in an image or photograph is a visual texture. A photograph of rough tree bark is considered a visual texture. It creates the impression of a real texture on a two-dimensional surface which would remain smooth to the touch no matter how rough the represented texture is. In painting, different paints are used to achieve different types of textures. Paints such as oil, acrylic, and encaustic are thicker and more opaque and are used to create three-dimensional impressions on the surface. Other paints, such as watercolor, tend to be used for visual textures because they are thinner and have transparency, and do not leave much tactile texture on the surface. Get ready for an exciting exploration as we unravel the mysteries of pattern. Many textures appear to repeat the same motif. When a motif is repeated over and over again in a surface, it results in a pattern. Patterns are frequently used in fashion design or textile design, where motifs are repeated to create decorative patterns on fabric or other textile materials. Patterns are also used in architectural design, where decorative structural elements such as windows, columns, or pediments are incorporated into building design. Let's now turn our attention to space and uncover the fascinating insights it brings to the table. In design, space is concerned with the area deep within the moment of designated design the design will take place on. For a two-dimensional design, space concerns creating the illusion of a third dimension on a flat surface. The overlap is the effect where objects appear to be on top of each other. This illusion makes the top element look closer to the observer. There is no way to determine the depth of the space, only the order of closeness. Shading adds gradation marks to make an object of a two-dimensional surface seem three-dimensional. Highlight, transitional light, core of the shadow, reflected light, and cast shadow give an object a three-dimensional look. Linear perspective is the concept relating to how an object seems smaller the farther away it gets. Atmospheric perspective is based on how air acts as a filter to change the appearance of distant objects. In the next phase, we'll be immersing ourselves in the realm of form and exploring its real-world applications. In visual design, form is described as the way an artist arranges elements in the entirety of a composition. It may also be described as any three-dimensional object. Form can be measured from top to bottom height, side to side width, and from back to front depth. Form is also defined by light and dark. It can be defined by the presence of shadows on surfaces or faces of an object. There are two types of form: geometric artificial and natural organic form. Form may be created by the combining of two or more shapes. It may be enhanced by tone, texture, or color. It can be illustrated or constructed. As we progress, let's zoom in on principles of the design of the art and examine its role in shaping our overall narrative. Principles applied to the elements of design that bring them together into one design. How one applies these principles determines how successful a design may be. Moving forward, we'll be taking a closer look at unity harmony. According to Alex White, author of The Elements of Graphic Design, to achieve visual unity is a main goal of graphic design. When all elements are in agreement, a design is considered unified. No individual part is viewed as more important than the whole design. A good balance between unity and variety must be established to avoid a chaotic or a lifeless design. Now, let's delve into the intricacies of methods and explore its various aspects. Perspective, sense of distance between elements. Similarity, ability to seem repeatable with other elements. Continuation, the sense of having a line or pattern extend. Repetition, elements being copied or mimicked numerous times. Rhythm is achieved when recurring position, size, color, and use of a graphic element has a focal point interruption. Altering the basic theme achieves unity and helps keep interest. Let's now enter the realm of balance and discover the fascinating stories it has to tell. It's a state of equalized tension and equilibrium, which may not always be calm. Now, let's shift our focus to types of balance in visual design and embark on an intellectual exploration of its various dimensions. Symmetry, asymmetrical balance produces an informal balance that is attention-attracting and dynamic. Radial balance is arranged around a central element. The elements placed in a radial balance seem to radiate out from a central point in a circular fashion. Overall is a mosaic form of balance which normally arises from too many elements being put on a page. Due to the lack of hierarchy and contrast, this form of balance can look noisy but sometimes quiet. Let's now shift gears and explore hierarchy and see emphasis through a critical lens, uncovering its strengths and weaknesses. A good design contains elements that lead the reader through each element in order of its significance. The type and images should be expressed starting from most important to the least important. Dominance is created by contrasting size, positioning, color, style, or shape. The focal point should dominate the design with scale and contrast without sacrificing the unity of the whole. In this part of the video, we'll be delving deeper into scale proportion and analyzing its key components. Using the relative size of elements against each other can attract attention to a focal point. When elements are designed larger than life, the scale is being used to show drama. Moving on to the next segment, we have similarity and contrast. Planning a consistent and similar design is an important aspect of a designer's work to make their focal point visible. Too much similarity is boring, but without similarity important elements will not exist, and an image without contrast is uneventful, so the key is to find the balance between similarity and contrast. Without wasting any more time, let's jump into the fascinating world of similar environment. There are several ways to develop a similar environment. Build a unique internal organization structure. Manipulate shapes of images and text to correlate together. Express continuity from page to page in publications. Items to watch include headers, themes, borders, and spaces. Develop a style manual and adhere to it. Brace yourself for an in-depth analysis as we navigate through contrasts and its far-reaching implications. Space. Filled, empty. Near, far. 2D, 3D position. Left, right. Isolated, grouped. Centered, off-center. Top, bottom form. Simple, complex. Beauty, ugly. Whole, broken, direction. Stability, movement, structure. Organized, chaotic. Mechanical, hand-drawn, size. Large, small. Deep, shallow. Fat, thin, color. Grayscale, color. Black and white color. Light, dark, texture. Fine, coarse. Smooth, rough. Sharp, dull, density. Transparent, opaque. Thick, thin. Liquid, solid, gravity. Light, heavy. Stable, unstable. Movement is the path the viewer's eye takes through the artwork, often to focal areas. Such movement can be directed along lines, edges, shape, and color within the artwork, and more. Your feedback helps me improve, so please take a moment to leave a comment or review.